Australia has been working towards a digital transformation challenge for quite some time. Over the last 10 years or so, Itron has worked with a number of our customers to install smart metering and IoT networks and the information platforms that sit behind those networks to utilize the data that they're generating. So the disruption that people are talking about is really kind of an evolutionary process, not a revolutionary process. And I think that based on the deployments that you have in Victoria in particular today, the Australian utility sector is particularly well positioned for that. I think where there's going to be a challenge is on the regulatory front, because while the industry and the platforms are creating lots of data, the ability to use that data to benefit consumers and increase competition in the market is challenged right now under the regulatory frameworks that exist. In Australia, it's particularly important to define what you mean is a utility. Because of the deregulation and the unbundling in the Australian utility sector, I think the players that are most threatened by the smaller, more nimble players are the retailers in the Australian market. As you look at the distribution companies, they actually have quite a good, very intimate relationship with the consumer, because when the power goes out or the water stops flowing, they're the first people that the consumer thinks of to call. So over time, I think what you'll see is a change in the role of the distribution utility to more of a market maker, because they provide the vital function of, even if you have a number of small players, of connecting all of that together, adding stability to the grid or to the distribution system. I think in the retail sector is where you see the largest threat to the existing incumbent players by things like solar panels and batteries, because if you don't need to buy your power from a retailer, you buy it from yourself, you have a significant incentive to try something new and different. But you're still going to want to be connected to the grid, because if something goes wrong with your solar panel, you want to make sure you have power. I think getting customer engagement relies on two things. One, having an understanding of what the customer is looking for, and two, providing the customer with not just data, but analyzed information that the customer can act upon. So the engagement really is about getting the customer into the conversation, not projecting information at the customer. I think in the energy sector in particular, as the consumer becomes a prosumer, where they own generation assets and maybe storage assets, their interest in being part of that conversation goes up, not just economically, but because they're doing something good for the environment. I think on the water side, Australia has some particular challenges about the availability of water. And so as you saw back in the droughts situations, people were quite willing to change their behaviors just by being engaged and knowing that they were contributing to a solution that was part of what the community was needed. So I think in the long run, the consumers will become engaged because they start to realize that these resources we have are precious, and we as an industry can help them to be more resourceful in the use of these commodities. As usual, our experience at Australian Utility Week has been very good. We've met a number of customers, and the presentations are very interesting.